Hey, how many of you have problems with lens distortion? Today, we're going to show you how to get your lenses in order and get rid of that distortion. So stay tuned. Hey, Len Erickson here with another purveyor of Lightroom tip. Today we've got a real quick and easy one. Something that we all have to deal with as photographers is lens distortion. No matter what lens you own, no matter how high a price, every lens has a little bit of distortion in it. And with Lightroom, you can't get any easier for correcting distortion inside of Lightroom. So let's go ahead and just jump right in here. I've got a couple of examples set up for you to show you how easy it is. We'll go ahead and select this first picture here and go to the Develop module. And here we're looking at the state capitol here. And we're going to go right here to the panel, and we are going to Lens Correction right off the main menu. And so the first thing here is under the Profile tab, you can enable Profile. Now here, in this case, the application has not identified what camera and lens we have used, and that'll happen sometimes. Sometimes it needs a little additional help. Other times it'll recognize your lens and camera automatically. So let me show you if it doesn't. Just go ahead and hit I for info. And now I have the info here on the screen that tells me this was shot with a Canon Rebel, okay, with a 18-55 lens. And that's all I need to know in order to automate the correction of this. So we're going to go ahead I for closing the info, and we're going to come right back to Profile. So I'm going to hit Enable Profile, and I'm going to select Canon, and you'll see right there, boom, instantly it filled in the rest. It identified that I'm working with the EFS 55 lens, and of course I could choose from the list if it was incorrect. And it enables the profile. And you'll also notice that it automatically started to identify the corrections that are needed. Now once we have the profile enabled, correcting the photo can absolutely not get any easier. So we go to the Basic tab, and now we click Remove Chromatic Aberrations in case that any high contrast areas have any color fringing. And then we have it by default on the off position, but we can just simply hit the auto position, and Lightroom automatically alters the picture to the correct, removing all distortions, correcting all verticals and horizontals, and gives you the best possible crop it can in that case. If you're not happy with this, go ahead and just simply hit it off again, and you could try here to say, well, give me a level picture first. By clicking level, you notice the picture just leveled itself. I could also then try to straighten the verticals. You can see by the lines here that we are slightly on a slant, and I hit that, and now Lightroom is attempting to correct the verticals and correcting the full image here with the cropped. Now this is the automated way for Lightroom to automatically take everything for you and do the corrections. Okay, so if you're lucky enough to automatically have the lens and the camera identified by Lightroom, it's just a matter of hitting auto and your picture is automatically corrected for you. So let me go ahead and reset this, and we'll come right back down here to another example. All right, here's an example of inside the capital area. Again, I will enable the profile by clicking on Enable Profile. And you'll notice right there, Lightroom just did all the heavy lifting for me. I'll turn that off and on. Off and on. You can see the barrel distortion that this lens has, as well as the other corrections, and Lightroom corrected everything with a single click. It cannot get any easier than this. Okay, so that's the best examples of what you're going to get, but what happens if you have a lens or a camera that Photoshop or Lightroom doesn't recognize at all? So let's go ahead and use a couple of those in the examples. So we'll come into this next example, and here's a picture of an old building, and if I hit enable profile, it doesn't recognize it at all. So that means we're going to have to take things into our own hands, and we're actually going to have to do what's called a manual distortion correction. Don't let that scare you. It couldn't be easier. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the manual tab here, and you'll notice that I have settings for distortion, vertical, horizontal, rotation, scale, and aspect. Okay? Now, all this is working one thing at a time. So let me give you some helpful tips on how to work with this. The first thing here on the right side of this building, you can see it's kind of leaning toward the left. The wall is kind of leaning toward the left. These posts are not straight. The building's leaning a little the other way. We definitely need to get some lens correction in here. So what I suggest is now putting up a grid on the screen. So that'll help you identify the vertical and the horizontal. So you can line things up in the picture and then ensure that you have proper horizontal and vertical lines. To do that, we hit Option Command 0, and that places a grid on the screen. Now, if this grid is a little too light for you or a little too fine, you can hold your Command key down and you can change the grid size as well as the opacity. You can increase the opacity so you can see the grid better. So for this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and increase the opacity so you can really see the grid, and I'm going to change the grid size so that we can see what's going on. So now if I look on this side of the building, I can definitely see that this side of the building is definitely leaning left. So to correct this, all I need to do is use the grid as my reference and then start working with the controls on the right side. So distortion. This is for like barrel distortion. Okay, so if I move the thing here, you see how it pinches in. If I move the other way, it barrels out. Okay, so if your lens happens to have any barrel distortion, you would use that here. But I don't see much barrel distortion in this picture, but I definitely see a problem with the vertical. So I come to the vertical tab, and now I'm going to just adjust the vertical until we are in line. And you'll notice now that I have straightened up this wall. Okay, and now we are in line with the grid. The horizontal is if I need to work with the horizontal to maneuver the picture. Okay, so how I want to work with the picture, and the rotation again is if I need to rotate the picture from a level. Scale, again, if I want to scale it to get rid of the cropped area. And the aspect ratio, again, if I want to change the aspect just slightly in the picture. Okay, now I don't want to do anything radical here, so I'm looking at the horizontal lines. Those are the most important thing, is the horizontal lines. Okay, now to turn this on and off, you can see, look at the difference. We have made, didn't look like we made so much difference, but we certainly have. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the grid off, Command Option O to turn the grid off again, and now I'll let you see it here. The before and the after. The before and the after. It doesn't get any easier than this, and that's a completely manual distortion change. Let's do one more. Okay, here we've got a great shot of the Golden Gate, and well, we can see along the horizon here we've got a little bit of distortion, and a little bit of distortion on the bridge towers, but not much. Let's go ahead and let's just make some subtle adjustments and see if we can go ahead and work on this. So I'm in manual mode, and I'm going to bring up the distortion here. All right, so I'm going to bring up the distortion to, we got a little bit of barrel distortion, and I'm going to say about right there. Okay, so I'm forcing it in. okay, just to show you on TV like this, I'm forcing the picture in to stop the distortion. Okay, so about right there is good for my eyes. Now I should also remember too, again, like anything else in photography, it is what your tastes are and what you feel is right. There is no right and wrong. I say this over and over and over again. It's what's right for your art and your interpretation and what you envision for the picture. Okay, so the vertical, I'm thinking we're having a little problem with the vertical, so I'm going to do a little vertical correction. Actually, I'm going to bring the grid up here so I can help determine where the towers are. And you can see, so I can work with this and bring the towers into straight alignment. Okay, so now I can look here at the tower and I can see how it is aligned with the picture. Okay. Then with a little bit of radius, okay, I'm going to bring the radius just a little bit to straighten the horizon. Okay, that's what I'm looking at there. I'm looking at the coastline across just to straighten it. And I'm going to say about there. And the scale perspective, okay, again, because of the rotation and the distortion, I'm getting some white areas around the picture. So we're going to have to crop those out, or I could turn around and scale the image ever so slightly. And I could turn around and just come in and scale the photograph to fit within there. And that's not looking too bad. I was looking at the bridge again. By moving that, we may have to come back and do a little more vertical adjustment. And again, I bring the adjustment in. And we look at the towers for vertical. That looks pretty good. I'm going to hit Control, Option, Command O to turn the grid off. And let's see the before and after. Before and after. Before and after. And that's how easy it is to do lens correction within Lightroom. I remember in the old days of having to go into Photoshop and working hand and to do all kinds of manipulation to get a picture to look good with lens distortion in the old days. Now with Lightroom here, a couple clicks, a minute or two, and you've got your picture picked up, beautiful, ready to go. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave some comments down below. Be sure and hit your subscribe button if you like these videos. We do a new video every week. And until next week, this is Len Erickson saying you take care.